Well, of course, we've been very focused on news in Canada for 2 years and in the last month during the trucker rebellion. And of course, the war, I think it's a war, between Russia and Ukraine is taking up so much bandwidth. But other things are going on in the world. And every year in the United States, there's a giant conservative convention called CPAC. Now, it used to be held in Washington, D.C., but it's moved to the freer territory of Florida, where they don't have limits on gatherings and mask mandates and vax mandates. And wouldn't you know it, one of our journalists, Yanky Pollak, well, he moved to Florida last year because of all the crazy lockdowns in Montreal. So besides doing the work he does in any given day, Yanky went down to CPAC to fly the Rebel News flag and to ask Americans about Canadian issues, if they've been following it, and indeed they have. And joining me now via Skype from Florida is our friend Yanky Pollak. Yanky, you've been doing double duty. You have a real job at Rebel News, but you've also gone to the CPAC convention as a video journalist. Thanks for working so hard this past week.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was amazing at CPAC. So many conservatives, so many people there, thousands of people, almost no masks in sight. The only masks I saw were on the media class. They still wear their mask in solidarity of the left-wing movement.
Isn't that funny? Now, what city or town is CPAC in, and what venue? Because I've been a couple times in Washington, D.C., and it's always fun to go to Washington. Of course, I can't really travel these days, but it sounds like they've moved to freer Florida. Where is it being hosted in Florida?
So it was hosted in a big resort in Florida. The name escapes me right now. Big venue. I'm not sure if it's bigger or smaller than the CPAC that used to be in DC. It's been 2 years since I went to that one last. But it was big, lots of people, and a lot of talk about freedom.
Where was that, in Orlando or
Orlando?
Well, that sounds super fun. I mean, I tell you, it's Yanky, I know you're enjoying the Florida sun down there, but it's still pretty snowy in much of Canada. Well, I want to show some of the clips because just before we turn the camera on, you were saying to me that a lot of people in CPAC, when they saw you holding the Rebel News microphone flash, they gave you a shout out because they recognized the name Rebel News from our coverage of the trucker convoy. And just give me a little bit of what that was like before we go to the video clips. What did people say when they could detect that you were from Rebel News?
A lot of people came over to me and just said thank you for showing what the trucker convoys across Canada, and thanking our reporters for being there. Alexa, Lincoln, who else was there? Maurizio, David. I can't even remember everyone. Everyone will be mad that I've missed them. But we had, I believe, at some point over 12 people there. And people came and went. So people were very thankful for us being there and showing the other side of the story. And even some people mentioning Avi, the work he's been doing in Australia.
I love Avi.
You love Avi?
Avi? Yeah, I'm obsessed with Avi.
I love him.
So a lot of people just saw the Rebel News microphone. They didn't know necessarily who I was, but they knew the Rebel News brand, and they came over to make sure that I know that they appreciate the work that all of us are doing at Rebel.
You know, I'm thrilled to hear that, and I think it's true. You know, I think in the last 30 days we've had 400 million views and impressions. Just that's my estimate, trying to add up all the different bits and pieces on Twitter and YouTube and Rumble, and it's really been an incredible month. And I think we've had more traffic in that 1 month than we had in the previous year, which shows the interest people have. So let's go to some of the videos you took. Why don't you introduce a few clips? One of my favorite people you met down there was not even an American, although I think he's sort of an honorary American, Nigel Farage, the former leader of the UKIP party. Just a great guy. You talked to him for a little bit about Putin, and then you asked him about the truckers. Let's take a quick look at that video.
Well, look, I have to say, Putin's gone a long way, further than I hope. I hoped he wouldn't go this far. I kind of understood those eastern provinces being Russian-speaking. Western Ukraine does not want to be with Moscow. We've provoked much of it over the years with our ridiculous geopolitics of expanding the EU and NATO, but we are where we are, and we now need American leadership on NATO to say there is a red line here with Poland and Estonia, and that's very important.
Okay, thanks. And what is your opinion on the Canadian truckers, but the truckers all around the world?
Well, look, up the truckers.
Thank you.
I like that guy. And by the way, for Canadians who don't know that phrase, when you say up the truckers, it doesn't mean up yours. It's a different meaning. It means yay. It's like hooray or up with the truckers. Like it's a British sort of football cheer. So that's what that meant. Tell me about some of the other folks you met and throw to those clips.
Yeah, I met Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri, and I asked him about Arthur Pawlowski, which has been in jail now for 2 weeks. And he said that Canada should be put on an anti-religious freedoms list, which is scary. I grew up in Canada, lived in Canada most of my life. I always looked at Canada as a free country, well, till COVID came along. And Canada deserves to be called out for persecuting pastors. And it's not only Pastor Art, it's... There's a whole list of pastors, Pastor Phil Hutchings, Pastor... there's so many.
James Coates from Edmonton. I know he was in jail for 35 days. Yeah, you know what? I wish more Canadian senators cared as much as American senators. Here's Senator Josh Hawley.
A few months ago, you came out about Canada arresting pastors. Pastor Arthur Pawlowski has been in jail for 2 weeks now again.
Yeah.
Is there anything you think we could call Canada out on that? I know you did a letter about that in the past.
Yeah, I think one of the things is that Canada needs to. The United States keeps a designation of folks who are religious liberty violators. Nations that are religious liberty violators. I've called for Canada to be put on that list, and I think that we need to consider all of the options that are available for that. I'm going to go in here. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I will. Yeah, you know.
That was your question that prompted that, and I know that Fox News covered that answer as well because a lot of people really care about that. Now, you also met some fun people, including Mike Lindell, the boss of My Pillow. He's a larger-than-life character, and he's become a Republican hero. Let's take a quick look at that.
Yanky Pollak, Rebel News.
Who are you?
Rebel News.
Who's that?
Ezra Levant.
Are you a left-wing nut job?
No, a right-wing nut job.
What can I do for you?
Tell me your experience at the Canadian border.
The Canadian border, well, contrary to the lies of the media, I was not there myself. The trucks, all of the pillows now are in Ottawa. I got them across through New York, and I did not put them in parachutes and drop them in. That was all fake news. Okay.
What's your message for the Canadian truckers and truckers?
The truckers, what they did was so important at this time in history because all of those mandates came down in Canada, like Ontario, all these places, they pulled down the mandate. Now remember, they said, well, we didn't pull them down because of the truckers. It was just the right time. Right. Okay. But it worked. The truckers, they got all these, like I'll give an example. I used to go to Ontario every year, still do, with my dad fishing when I was a kid, all the way up in my family going now. Well, we couldn't go fishing the last couple of years up there. And we go way in northern Canada with this tribe. There's about 1,200 Indians that live up there. And they count 100% on United States fishermen and hunters up there. Their economy just got completely ruined during this COVID crap with the mandates, right? So,
thank you, Mike.
Yeah. So it's all good now up there.
Well, that's great to get him, and so his complaint is with the fake news in Canada and the States. I believe it. People love to attack him because he doesn't bend the knee. He's a stubborn Trump supporter, and the diehard Trump fans love him, and the Trump derangement folks hate him so much, don't they?
They do. They certainly do. And, I sleep on my pillow every night, so I certainly love his products.
There's a couple more vids I wouldn't mind showing. I'm not that familiar with this next politician. I think he's a Republican from Florida, Rick Scott. Let's take a look.
What should America do about Ukraine and the crisis with Russia? Should America get involved? How much?
We ought to do everything we can to help the Ukrainian government, the military, and the citizens defend themselves. I'm glad that we finally have gotten rid of Nord Stream 2. That needs to be permanent. That Nord Stream 2 never happens. We've got to get back and make this country energy independent so we can be supportive not only for our own economy but economies around the world, our allies. On top of that, we got to do everything we can to make it. From everything on top of that, what we ought to be doing is making sure Putin's held accountable. I'm glad that we're doing sanctions against Putin. We ought to keep doing it. And I think we ought to provide them whatever resources we can to make sure they can do it.
We should
give weapons to Ukraine?
We should continue to give weapons.
Should we restart building the Keystone XL to help America?
We got to do everything. We got to do the Keystone. We got to allow more drilling safely in this country. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Senator.
So he's a Florida politician, but I tell you, Yanky, the Florida politician I want to hear about more than anyone is the current governor, Ron DeSantis, who many say has presidential qualities, which I would agree with. He's been a real leader on the lockdowns. And in a number of straw polls, Trump still wins the straw polls, but if Trump is not in the mix, Ron DeSantis comes out head and shoulders above. Was Ron DeSantis at CPAC, or maybe just not at the same time you were there?
He was there. I unfortunately couldn't speak with him, but I was in the room when he gave a speech. That was on Thursday, I believe, that he gave a speech. But I unfortunately couldn't get a hold of him. He has a lot of security around him, and he didn't come out to the public, or at least I didn't see him.
Yeah, I believe he has a lot of security. I mean, he really could be. If things break a certain way, he really could be the next president of the United States. So I imagine, and being a governor of a very large state like Florida is a high-profile job enough. Well, I'm delighted you went, and I've been there in the past, and it really is, in my life, it would be like my Twitter feed coming to life, because all these people in journalism and politics and punditry that I sort of follow electronically, all of a sudden they're standing right in front of me, and it's a fun feeling. It has sort of a reunion feeling. And we're in Canada, which isn't really the center of the action, but you know what? For the last 6 weeks, I think Canada actually has been the center of the action, and I think you got a little taste of that.
Yeah, I missed out a lot not being in Ottawa, but I was here and following it and helping the team. But yeah, it was definitely center of the action at CPAC. There were so many people there, and I interviewed a lot of people. We'll see when the videos get released. You could see them at rebelcpac.com as they will be published. I had an interview with former Member of Parliament Kerry Diot, and that interview will be released soon, and Sebastian Gorka as well.
Well, it sounds like you were busy. I look forward to seeing that, rebelcpac.com. Yanky, thanks for burning the candle at both ends. You have a lot of work as our social media boss, keeping us going on Instagram and Twitter and all our other accounts. And then you were doing video journalism too, so we thank you for doing double duty. Great to see you again. That's an excerpt from my daily show, The Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.